But I was curious, just to get started, how did you even find out about having a math learning disability? Were you a kid? Was it when you were older? How did you find out about it?
You mean, how did I find out I wasn't just stupid, which is what I thought I was?
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I was in my 30s and
Okay.
was talking to a woman who was a school teacher and also a piano teacher. And we were discussing my frustration with trying to read music. And I
Oh, yeah.
offhandedly commented that I said, I just play like a cheat sheet because I can't see the treble and bass clef at the same time. I can't remember the pattern of the chords or the pattern of the music.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she said, "Did you have trouble with math when you were a kid?" And I'm like, "Did I have trouble with math?" Almost got me from graduating from college. Yeah, I had trouble with math. And she said, "I think you might have a math learning disability. I've had students for 40
Wow.
years with this, but she didn't name it.
Yeah. Probably
And
just was known as a math learning disability. And even
right,
now, that's what people
right.
call it. So,
And I remembered that I think I was going into second grade, that the first grade teacher told my parents that I would never be good at math.
oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
so even when I was little, 6, 7,
Yeah.
I knew I was told, and of course we believe our parents at that age, right? I was told I would never be good at math. So it just was something I couldn't do and couldn't learn, no
Yeah.
matter how hard I tried.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was sort of stunning to go, wait, that's a thing. But it freed me as
Yeah.
a musician to be able to just play because I'm internally very musical, but
Mm,
I couldn't process because for those of you who don't know, music is math,
yes.
right? And you break down even each measure by a mathematical calculation because it's number,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I could hear the rhythms and I could feel all of it, but I couldn't read it in
Yep.
the I still don't read music.
No.
I play what they call fake book. So I
Yeah.
use a chord because I've memorized the chords, the chord chart, and then I goof around with the melody because I know enough internally about
Yeah.
music, but I would never sit down with a piece of classical music and play, which is sad because I have a beautiful piano that was a gift from a friend.
Yeah.
So it's
So did
still,
you play a lot by just hearing then, like
yeah,
hearing it and then you could
yeah.
replicate it?
Hearing it and then feeling it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had a piano teacher that, you know how when you're an adult, you think, was that person really that mean? Or was I just
Oh,
insecure? What
yeah.
was it? So
Yeah.
in one of the times I moved, I found my piano notebook. Like he would handwrite out in a ledger,
Yeah.
and it said week after week, I'd better not hear any mistakes next week.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yeah, yeah. So from all angles, in hindsight, right, I can see, oh,
Yeah.
my brain really was just not making the connections.
Yeah.
So fast forward, when my daughter was little, she wanted to play the violin, and she also is dyscalculic,
Yep.
but we didn't know it yet. But her teacher was this brilliantly kind woman,
Mm, you made sure
and
of that.
made sure that and actually invited her to learn to play both by ear and in sight reading. So
Yeah.
she has overcome
Yeah.
that piece. She still prefers to play by ear.
Yes.
So and she's developed perfect pitch. But I say that to say that it's not a sentence that means you can't
Yeah.
right that music would be eliminated as an opportunity for her. She's a really skilled. She was a prodigy on the violin as a small
Yeah.
child. So
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't realize that about music either until my daughter was trying to play piano and she could play these, like, just picked up how to play from hearing songs on her iPod. But then when I tried to teach her reading music, I realized at that point we knew about her dyscalculia, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these numbers. Like the timing is numbers, and then
right.
you have to read these two lines, and then you have to remember what that note signifies. And also you have to see which line that the dot is on. And she couldn't see that. She couldn't just
Right.
look at that and be like, oh, that's on the third row line. Like she did.
Nope.
So that was fascinating. And she also has been loving playing. She's picked up the Irish tin whistle, but she found someone online who brilliantly teaches how to do it with pictures instead of the
Mm.
um, as typical way of learning. So she, yeah, is learning
Right.
other ways.
It's like anything else. If you
Yeah.
can find a way to access the learning,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but if we only allow our children one way or
Right.
ourselves to learn something, it's very defeating.
Yeah.
Um,
Like your
I,
teacher saying that you'll never learn math. That's so sad
right,
because
right.
if the teacher knew uh some of the ways that are coming out now, which, they didn't back then, she wouldn't have said that. She could have said, "Oh, you don't learn this way, but we can teach you this other
Yeah,
way to
there are
understand
other ways.
numbers."
Yeah.
That's not really
And,
happening these days, but it will.
well, it's happening a little bit.
Okay.
I have sent two people to you in the last 6 months, because they are either a learner with
Yeah.
who's dyscalculic or a teacher. I saw a friend of mine at my dad's 90th birthday party, a friend I've known since I was 7.
Wow.
And she said, I have this student I'm tutoring who's struggling with math. And I remember, and I'm stunned to say this because I'm almost 59. She said, I remember in high school, you took geometry 3 times and didn't pass. And I'm like, of all the things you remember about me, this
Yeah.
is it. Yeah, that was me. Couldn't pass geometry.
Yeah.
I could see the square, but couldn't turn it into a box because my
Yeah.
brain just would not rate. This is part
Yeah.
of the issue with
Yep.
dyscalculia is the spatial relations of it. So she's like, but I remember that a friend of yours
Oh.
is researching this. And I'm like, dear Laura, this is my friend Jennifer from high school.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful because, I really not being able to pass geometry
Mm.
greatly influenced my view of myself.
Yeah.
Right. And
Especially in high school.
yeah, and the all the years
Mhm.
of learning in a school context where there's one way to learn math,
Yeah.
when you can't, I just couldn't. My brain just obviously was not right, not making sense of it.
Yeah.
It greatly impacted my view of myself and my family's view of me. I have a
Mhm.
master's degree and a doctorate,
Mhm. But their
and my
idea of smart
sisters
is related to
know,
numbers or
right,
something.
related to not struggling,
Yeah.
maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know. And there's probably lots of other things that are part of that.
Yeah.
But I hope that people hearing me, and in my context here, I talk about, I'm a pastor, so I get to be up
Yeah.
in front of people talking a lot.
Encouraging. Yeah.
And yeah, and I have shared a few times, even since I moved back to Northern California, about what it was like to be dyscalculic and how it
Mm.
impacted my view, and how actually I feel like the healing journey has been so um, it's just had such a huge impact on me.
Yeah.
Because to discover dyscalculia, and as you've written your book, and the more things I'm realizing as an adult that it impacts, for
Mm.
instance, reading a spreadsheet or
Yeah, I wanted to
or
ask you that. Like, what are some
yeah,
of the things you've noticed since being 30, finding out, and then in your work or
yeah.
daily life, like what are those things that you have put together besides music that you're like, oh,
Oh,
this,
so many things in the business world. So
yeah,
I started after college, I was in sales and marketing, which
yeah,
was great for me because it was relational and I wasn't reading a lot of spreadsheets. And then after going to grad school, I have all up until this job, I've always had a full-time assistant who's
mm,
managed the database and analytics for me. And in my current role, I do not have that. And it's stunning to me to
mm,
discover all the places, like building a spreadsheet,
yeah,
learning. We changed databases 3 times since I moved here 3.5
oh,
years ago. Thanks, COVID. But um, like my brain, it is new to me every time I go in to use the system.
yeah,
So I've discovered, okay, I need a cheat sheet that works for me, that has the steps. Don't
yep,
tell me, non-auditory learner,
yep,
write it down with the words, not the numbers, right?
yep, yep,
And as I use it more and more, my brain is remembering it.
yeah,
But I have zero embarrassment about asking for the help I need because
yeah,
we're all different learners.
yeah,
Like I cannot tell you how to play a Bach piece on the piano, but I can tell you everything about the family that I've sat with where the mom is going through cancer treatment.
mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh,
So where I had this place I was suffering,
mm-hmm.
what I did was lean into the things I was really good at instead.
Mm. Yeah,
And so to be able to say with freedom, I'm not great with spreadsheets.
yeah,
I'm not great with data or analytics.
yeah,
I'm super strategic. So I want the data. It's helpful to me,
mm-hmm.
but I study it intuitively,
Yeah, and
not
probably relate it to how does that really impact on the relational, like real person level.
right.
Like, what
Right.
is that? How does that engage with that?
Right. So here's the information.
Yeah.
How can I use it to make sense of what I'm observing?
Yeah.
So I just think that if we would talk about this more, like the Gallup poll people did this amazing study about organizations who were soaring and those that
Hmm.
were suffering. And
Yeah.
what they found is in the businesses where they said to the people, let's take your strengths, your team members' strengths, and have them lean into those
Yeah.
rather than saying, oh, here's your growing edge. This is your
Hmm.
weakness. We got to really focus on that.
Yeah.
The company was more productive. It grew faster. They had
Mm-hmm.
less employee turnover. Well, why is that? Because we're all different.
Yeah.
We are actually born with some innate strengths and
Yes.
some things that are not as strong in us. For
Yeah.
instance, math for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So discovering that learning math and that spatial relations
Yeah.
was not, my brain was not going to do that well.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to have people that noticed other things, other strengths I had, and
Yeah.
encouraged me to lean into those
Yeah.
instead of just saying over and over, try harder, try harder.
Yeah. So
When
defeating.
so defeating. When I was my senior year of college, I had chosen a college where I didn't have to take a whole bunch of math. Pretty smart,
Yeah.
but because right, I already knew by then it was
Yeah.
not.
You knew that then what's going on.
So when I transferred into Seattle Pacific, they said, okay, you just have to take this, you have to pass this math exam and we'll check the box for you to graduate. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I'm in the math lab 3, 4 nights a week.
Oh man.
Can't pass the test. All you have to do is
Yeah.
pass the test. It's like basic. I couldn't do the basic
Yep.
algebra
Nope.
because it was a pattern I couldn't see.
Nope.
Could do basic geometry, pattern I couldn't see.
Nope.
So I, at the end, I'm crying every night. I'm a senior in college. I can't get out of college because I can't pass math.
I
Right? What?
know.
And at the very end, the professor who was tutoring the class came over to me and she said, I have never seen anybody try so fiercely
Oh my
and fail
gosh.
so grandly. And I was
Yes.
like, I think that was a compliment. Right.
I remember Emma's teacher, third grade, saying that to me. He was like, she's trying 10 times harder than all the other kids to get this material and is failing at it. So that was like a sign like this isn't laziness. This isn't like
Right.
stupidity. What's happening? Like it's very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do we learn to pay attention, right, in fresh
Yeah.
ways
Yeah.
so that we can see the effort?
Yeah.
And I did get out of college. They did check the box. But
Well, obviously I was like, you got a master's and then a doctorate then.
but
So
even when I went to grad school, I
yeah.
applied only to places where I didn't need the GRE because I knew I would not pass
Yeah.
the math section. I knew there was no, I can't do basic algebra because
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, it's so
it's like,
confusing.
it's literally a foreign language to
Yes.
my brain.
A foreign
I,
language.
I had to take Greek and Hebrew, which are foreign languages, but because they were languages with words,
Yeah.
they made sense to my brain,
Yeah.
right? So part of why I talk about being dyscalculic, even on the platform at church, is go back to 25 years ago. I'm sitting with friends. They have a 7-year-old, and the wife is crying. She's like, my child cannot pass math at school. She's
Mm.
not memorizing the times tables. They
Oh
don't make
gosh.
sense to her. And I will never forget that this woman, the husband's a doctor and the wife is a bank manager. So these are highly
Yeah.
intelligent, articulate people, right?
Yeah.
And the wife looks at me and she says, she's going to spend her whole life working at Burger King. I'm like, oh, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Right?
that's not her only option.
Not her only option, but I remember, I thought, gosh, I wonder if my parents felt that same fear.
Oh, I would say a lot of parents that I work with have that fear. Like they don't even know how we're going to get through elementary. And then you get into high school and then everything starts to count. And they're like, this is just going to cut off all the dreams we had of our kids studying something they love and going into a field they want. Um, so it absolutely, that comes up all the time.
Well,
For
and
people.
what's it like to then say, this is who you are, so let's find a different dream,
Yeah.
right? That's our opportunity as parents, is to help our child become who they actually already are.
Yeah.
They come with lots of gifts and each one of them a unique I have two young adult daughters and they're completely different. They're best friends, but they're
Yeah.
really different. And
Yeah.
I want them to live into their own soul shape, right? The way their
Yeah.
brain is made. And
Yeah.
so both my daughters have dyscalculia, but they
Yeah.
have really different manifestations of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my older daughter, who still is like, I probably am embarrassed to tell you this, but I have my watch on the right wrist, so I know my right from my left. Like there
Oh,
are things that my brain just
yeah.
doesn't absorb. She
Yeah.
is a PhD candidate at Vanderbilt University currently. So,
Talk
but
about options, people. Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah.
right, there are things that you can do and you
Yeah.
can become. So I hope if people are listening, they will not be discouraged, because
Yeah.
now with you, Laura, with you and the work you're doing, and as we talk, like I feel obligated to talk about it. I do, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't
Well,
want
I don't mind.
anybody.
I'm glad that you feel. Yeah.
I want people to know there are methods, there are ways. My neuroscientist friends say what fires together wires together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If we can find new ways and new
Mm-hmm.
patterns that are not the typical way of learning
Yep.
numbers or math, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yes.
And I would propose that each of us gets to pay attention in the same way that she's paying attention. Because even if
Yeah.
it's not number related things, there's some things we are more
Yeah.
inclined to, gifted to do. And why wouldn't we want to lean into that
Yeah.
and
I
marvel?
remember you saying something recently about you were taking a class and it was like you asked or you told the professor that you just needed to intake the information, something different than spreadsheets. Was that recent
Yeah.
or was that in
Yeah,
like when you're
it
getting
was
your
recent.
doctorate?
It
Yeah.
was on his, yeah. I was wrapping up my doctorate. I was like, I just need some other way to process the information.
Yeah.
So I took the information and wrote it in narrative. Like I love to write.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, thankfully, when you do a dissertation for my area of study, it was words, not numbers.
Yeah.
But to transfer and I really was translating, right, the information
Yeah.
from data
Yep.
to putting it into words so it looked more narrative to me.
Yeah.
And then I could I could take it in, I could
Mm-hmm.
process it and figure out how I wanted to utilize it. Because
Yep.
that's the goal with anything we learn,
Yep.
is that what we're learning is useful to us. I don't know if your Emma struggles at all with history.
Oh, yeah. Dates.
Oh, please.
We were watching this story on the History Channel actually as a family, this show, and she never liked to watch it. And then, I mean, this is really far along in our journey. Like, we just realized this like last year where we were like, she has no concept. So someone will say 1795, whatever. Like, she would just be like, that doesn't say anything to me. Where to everyone else, I'd be like, that was when our country was starting, or that was way at the beginning, or, and even now in civics class, he gives a date. She has no context for the date.
Right, right. And
Oh,
it's hard to remember something that you can't contextualize.
exactly. It's yes, you can't you can't remember something that doesn't have like a meaning, like a legit
Right.
meaning to it.
You know, it's interesting because my father was an educator his whole life. He started as a teacher and ended up as a superintendent, and was very, rigid about traditional education and public education. And later in his life, in his late 70s, he said to me, "Gosh, I wish we'd done things differently with students." And I said, "What?"
Mm,
And he said, "I wish we'd allowed them to learn the things they did well and then help them to go do those things in life." And I think that
mm,
came from my dyscalculia, his
yeah,
beginning to understand it even in later years of his life. And I
yeah,
have a nephew who has several different learning challenges.
yeah,
And my dad was just like, why do we think everybody needs to go to university when they might be a great mechanic?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so this one size fits all approach to education, even a guy who was adamant for decades about it,
Interesting. Yeah, for
is
him
that
to come
interesting?
around
Yeah.
that many years later and notice.
Yeah, because I think when we actually could see people struggle when they're working as hard as they can to remember the information, how is that actually benefiting who they'll become as an adult? Just continuing to say, try harder, try harder. Well, how about try different?
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, I'm a
Yeah.
pastor, and so you can imagine, like everything in the Bible has an address, right?
Yeah.
The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 4.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know absolutely no addresses. Like people will say, well, where's the verse, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. I know it's in there, or I can
Yeah.
tell, where does it say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? I'm like, that actually isn't in the Bible. But it doesn't keep me from doing my job.
No.
because the
You can
primary,
look that up. You can type in
right?
a phrase and look that
Exactly.
up.
Ask Google, ask Siri,
Yeah.
but the primary focus of my job is being on life's journey with people,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
From birth to death and all the things in between and coming alongside them. So, of course, that feels more life giving to me because it's not based on numbers. But
Yes.
I did have to pass those tests, right? So you can find ways to learn those
Yeah.
things, even temporarily, which is
Yeah.
sort of what I think happened for my brain. And
Yes.
then to, as an adult, be free to say, oh, I don't feel any pressure to know those things.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a decision I had to make because I promise you, there's nobody in my world that's like, you don't have to remember where that is in the Bible, or you don't have to remember what year that happened in church history. I'm like,
Yeah.
year did Luther nail those theses on it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
allows us, if I can value my strengths and value your strengths,
Yeah.
really the world probably is going to be a better place, no
Absolutely.
matter what your strengths are, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's wonderful to talk with you. And I'm sure you and I will stay in touch, but we'll sign off for now.
Thanks, Laura.
All right. Bye.